So we're now moving on to the second pass of our painting. Here we're just going to keep using the same colors we did in our first pass, which in my case are yellow ochre and a cobalt blue. And we're going to use those just to darken our shadows, figure out where our lowest values are, and our midtones. And I'm going to use the white of the page still, the white of the canvas, for our highlights. But in case I make any mistakes, I put a little bit of white on my palette just in case I need it, if I need to rearrange something or bring out a highlight that I lost. So I'm going to start out with the darkest darks, which in my case are down here in this corner and over here in this corner. And I'm going to just use my yellow ochre to get as dark as I can. And I'm keeping it still fairly thin and watery. And I'm just going to get a little darker and start defining where those darkest shadows are. And I'm going to keep it really loose still, not worry too much about getting things perfect, but in a rather quick manner, start figuring out where those shadows are. And as I define them, I might choose to get darker or as dark as I need to go, as dark as I see it in my image. Just trying to capture all of these facets. This rock face. If something's confusing or really full of lots of details that are hard to understand, maybe the color makes it hard to see the values, how light or dark something is, try to see it in terms of maybe a highlight, midtone, and a shadow. Right? Breaking it up into simplified areas of value can make this much more manageable. And if you have trouble seeing what the value of something is, what I like to do is I squint my eyes. I just sort of squint like this, and I look through my eyelashes. It makes everything a little blurry. It takes away detail, and it also removes color to some degree, so you can pay attention to light and dark more. I do that all the time. Also, don't forget to step back often. Get back a few feet, take your whole painting in, and make sure you're happy with what you've been doing. If not, go in and change it. This is still a really good time to change it. It's very open and flexible right now. And as I go, as I become a little more confident in my choices, I'm going to get even darker. I'm going to start using the yellow ochre to get as dark as it will allow me to get. And really get in those darkest shadows. Still leaving the whites of the canvas to be quite white. And I can see this area is going to be relatively dark against the lightness of the sky behind it. So I want to get those relative values locked in at this point. I can see this area is not going to be white. It's going to be kind of a bit more of a midtone. And there's some highlights there up on top of the rock, so I'm going to leave those alone right now. Leave it white. And I keep my foliage just very loose and feathery, just using the texture of the brush to capture the sort of energy and movement of all those leaves that are down in this area. Now I'm going to get back into the sky. The sky doesn't need to be nearly as dark, which is why I've left it for last. So I'm going to take some yellow ochre, some cobalt blue, and start painting in some of that sky. Now, I'm starting at the top because typically the sky up at the top is going to be quite a bit darker than what we have down below. That's the sky that's right above us. This is technically closer to us than what's over here in near the horizon. This is close to us, therefore there's less atmosphere in the way. Therefore, it's going to be have a little more contrast up here, the area that's near us. And I think I actually want to make this part a little different than the photograph, so I'm going to wipe out that part I just did. I'm going to give this more of a swooping kind of a feeling for the clouds. This area down here in the horizon, it's going to stay very low contrast. And that's it for the second pass. Just still very simple, and just defining a little more contrast and value, figuring out where those darkest darks are and where those lightest lights are.